conflict. Well, let's talk now to Juliette Touma, the Director of Communications at UNRWA. Thank you so much for being with us here again. Philippe Lazzarini was talking about Gaza not being habitable anymore. That is an incredible assessment, isn't it?
Yes, very sadly, this is where we are at after almost 70 days of a brutal war and a very tight siege. Gaza is becoming unlivable, Matthew.
And added to everything we've seen over 8 weeks, you now have terrible weather, and we've been seeing the pictures of the rain. And Philippe Lazzarini was talking about just the amount of people that you were trying to help in the few shelters you have, but pointed to the vast majority being just exposed to all of this.
Yeah, so we have 150 shelters. We had to open more and more shelters as this war continued, but those shelters are overcrowded and cannot take people anymore. So what's happening is that people are resorting to just building shacks, literally, or those who have cars, they're living in their cars, right? And we've seen yesterday, because we had rain here in the region, we've seen people literally walking in flooded streets and stuck in the mud. It gets miserable by the minute.
Now, only yesterday, UNRWA were talking about, again, being on the brink of collapse. I know you said that before, but just tell me the latest in your thinking. What are you still able to do, and what can't you do?
Our aid operation is being focused only in one area, which is less than 1/4 of the size of the Gaza Strip, which is Rafah, near the borders with Egypt. We cannot access those who need us most and fulfill our duties due to restrictions imposed on the agency. So people in Gaza City or in the north or anywhere literally outside of Rafah. This is also due to the heavy bombardment that continues to happen. You cannot deliver aid under a sky full of airstrikes. And also due to the very, very little supplies that we're managing to bring in. So it's a combination of all these factors together.
Your commissioner was talking about a meaningful, at-scale, uninterrupted, unconditional flow of aid to get into the Gaza Strip. How far away are you from that description of what is needed?
Every day we get farther away. 70 days of siege, restrictions on the delivery of the basics of humanitarian supplies. I mean, we met a person in Gaza who said to us that all he had for his children for 3 days was a can of beans. It goes down to that. We don't have much food, enough food to give to people, that we're forced to give a bottle of water and a can of tuna to a family of 6 or 7. This has got to change, and there needs to be more flow, not only of humanitarian supplies, but also of commercial goods, so that the markets can restart. There's no longer a market in Gaza.
The Commissioner was also talking about UNRWA becoming a target also in this campaign. You've lost so many colleagues, haven't you?
Yeah, 135 colleagues of mine were killed since the war started. We have recorded over 150 hits on UNRWA facilities, which should be protected in accordance with international law. I'm sure, Matthew, you've seen this horrific video of one UNRWA school that got literally blown up and directly hit. So schools and UN facilities have quite often become a target in the war in Gaza.
And do you think the civilian infrastructure is being deliberately targeted? You referenced that school, but when you see pictures like that, are you convinced in your mind that there's a deliberate targeting of civilian infrastructure?
Quite often, civilian infrastructure have become a target, and that should not happen. Every war has laws. They were put in place so that they are applied and so that they are respected. And very often in this war, these rules have not been followed.
Juliette Touma, we have to leave it there, but thanks again for taking time to speak to us live on the programme. Thank you. Now to an extraordinary story, because we've been hearing in the past couple of hours that French police have found a British boy who disappeared in Spain